What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about linear versus exponential settings in Fortnite Chapter 3. This is like a debate that is pretty much always ongoing. Controller players pretty much always seem to be in some sort of settings crisis and then like thinking about if they could play better on the other. Like I see a lot of Expo players being like, maybe I should try linear, and vice versa with linear players thinking that they should try exponential and potentially get better. So today we're going to talk about the differences between these two settings because it seems like a lot of people are still confused about the differences and the advantages that either one produces. Before I get into it, I just want to say it is preference, and even though there are some advantages to either setting, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's impossible to overcome them or that you're just automatically going to be better at those things. Like linear is typically seen to be better for building and editing, but that doesn't mean that an exponential player can't also be good or better than a linear player at those things. It just comes down to practice, putting in the time, and preference. But there are some advantages to either setting that make it like somewhat easier to do either thing. If you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, please do remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below which you play and which you think is better in Fortnite Chapter 3. Personally, I play linear, and I've played linear pretty much ever since they added it in Fortnite. So the differences between these two settings is just going to be how your sensitivity reacts to you moving the stick and how it increases over time. Exponential basically has built-in aim acceleration, so when you move your stick, it's going to start out kind of slow and then gradually increase over time, whereas if you play linear, your stick or sensitivity increase is going to be much more aligned with how much you move your stick, and it's going to be a lot more consistent. So if you just push your stick all the way to the edge and like quickly do that, you're going to be on your max sense, whereas exponential, you have somewhat of a ramp up time where your sensitivity is increasing over time. And the best way to explain this is just to use graphs, because these terms are like terms to describe mathematical expressions. So on screen now, there will be an exponential graph, and as you see, it slowly increases over time. It does get really fast at the end, but there is that slow ramp up time at the start, whereas now we'll have a linear graph on screen, and you see it's just very consistent, and it just goes. It just quickly goes, and that's basically what your sensitivity does in Fortnite. With linear, it's going to be super consistent, and it's going to increase at the same speed pretty much regardless of how fast you're moving the stick. With exponential, you get a slow increase over time, and that does make it feel kind of weird and not as smooth for things like building or editing, like we're going to get into later on. But it also makes exponential a little bit better at making small, precise adjustments, especially at medium to long range, because of that like slow ramp up time. So a lot of people see the slow ramp up time and they just look at it as a disadvantage automatically, but there are some instances where you might want to use that. But personally, I think for Fortnite, linear is just better because of just the style of game. So that consistent, quick increase in your sense is going to be much better for building or editing. If anything where you need to make large adjustments quickly, and building and editing are like perfect examples of that. Most linear players are going to feel like their building and editing are just way more smooth and way more consistent, because when you're doing either of those things, you're making very large adjustments with your sticks like very quickly. If you want to do a 90, like you're moving your stick all over the place and you're moving your camera in like several different directions at once. Same thing with editing. If you take someone's wall and then want to like edit out a top corner so you can make a peanut butter peak and then flick to them with your shotgun, this is just going to be so much more smooth on linear typically. Like I said in the video before, it's preference, and it doesn't mean an exponential player can't be good at those things, but linear just lends itself to that style of play better, and I think linear fits Fortnite better because most of what linear's advantages are revolve around building, editing, or close range. Flicks with your pumps are going to be like way more consistent and just feel better on linear. And then same with like SMG tracking up close. Exponential is often associated with tracking, but up close, linear takes the cake. If you're jumping into somebody's box or somebody's jumping into your box, or having just a really awkward close range fight where there's a lot of movement going on, and the closer somebody is to you, the more their movement is actually going to like force you to adjust more. Like if somebody's really far away and they move, you don't have to move your stick that much to actually track them. But for close range, you're going to have to make large adjustments to continue tracking people, and that is why linear is better at those things, because you can make those large adjustments quickly, and you can make those like opposite adjustments quickly, I guess. Like if somebody's going left and then they jump to the right and they're like kind of in your face, it's going to be much easier to track that on linear than it is exponential, because exponential isn't as good at like making those large adjustments really quickly. And with how the Chapter 3 meta is this season, like so far in Season 1, with how dominant SMGs are, and like how dominant or how important close range fights are, I feel like linear is better at those things as well. So linear is better at building and editing, typically going to be better pump shots, better reactionary pump shots, however you want to describe it. And I think linear is also much better for SMG tracking up close. And if you've played a lot of Chapter 3, you know that the SMGs are insane this season. And that's like a huge part of the game. Exponential is typically better at medium to long range tracking, which kind of matters with how insane the MK is. But that is the one main advantage. And I feel like, sure, getting nice beams on somebody with an MK is nice, but that's not how you're going to be getting a lot of your kills. Like, you might weaken somebody that way, or you might do damage to them and start a fight that way. But Chapter 3 has a lot of fast heals, and I feel like a lot of times my AR damage doesn't necessarily like instantly translate into a kill unless the person is already weak. A majority of the fights that you get into in Fortnite, even if you start by beaming the guy with an AR, you're still going to have to push him. You're still probably going to have some sort of box fight with him, taking his walls and making edits, or just getting in with the SMG. So I feel like how you get a majority of your kills, linear just contributes to that so much better. Every kill I feel like in this season is going to involve building, it's going to involve editing, it's going to involve pumps, and it's going to involve an SMG. And while the MK is very nice, it's more of a weapon to like start fights or just get tags than it is necessarily your main weapon to get kills. At least how my games go, and a majority of players I know or watch, most of their fights come down to box fights or some sort of like close range encounter with the SMG. So that is why I think linear is better. It just suits Fortnite so much more, and it suits the current meta more. And we do have the MK, which is a really good AR, but that one slight advantage over like the several that linear has is why I choose linear over exponential. And like I already addressed in the video, it's not like it's impossible to have good tracking or good medium to long range tracking on linear. You just typically have to have a lower ADS sense, and that's where a lot of players go wrong, is they don't turn down their ADS sense when they switch to linear, so it just feels uncontrollable. But you want to have a lower ADS sense if you're playing linear, and that's going to make you kind of make up for the like disadvantage that linear has when it comes to medium long range tracking. And if you put the time in, you can have good AR aim on linear. I have really consistent good assault rifle aim, and I've played linear for a long time. You just want to have a lower ADS sense. I think most good linear players are playing around like 10 to 15% ADS. I think I'm on 12. And yeah, that lower ADS sense is what's really going to allow you to control linear at those longer ranges and control the MK's recoil at those longer ranges. So that is why I think linear is better. Like I said, there is advantages to either setting. And if you are someone who's been playing exponential, it can be pretty difficult to get used to linear, especially if you don't really understand like how it works. Like, a lot of people just try it and they're like, oh, this is better for building. And then they don't change their sensitivities up or don't really like put the time in, and then they just feel like it's worse. So I would say if you want to get used to linear, you want to probably lower your base sensitivity and maybe your build and edit sense, because linear is faster, or you have like a more consistent increase in your sensitivity. It makes everything feel faster. So like 50% sensitivity on linear is going to feel much faster than 50% sensitivity on exponential. So if you're going from exponential to linear, you're going to want to turn your sensitivity down a little bit. If you're going from linear to exponential, you're going to want to turn your sensitivity up a little bit. So it just kind of depends. Linear feels faster than exponential, so change your sensitivity to accommodate. You're going to want to lower your ADS sensitivity, like I said, because you don't have as much room to play with that like small sensitivity increase, where you can like really make those small adjustments. So if you're playing on linear, you're going to want a lower ADS sensitivity to accommodate for that. And that might sound bad, but it doesn't matter. A majority of the fights where you aim in are going to be those long range fights anyways. It doesn't really hurt your close range. You don't really want to be aiming with an SMG up close. You can sometimes. You don't really want to be aiming with a shotgun up close, even though you can sometimes. A majority of the time your ADSing is going to be with an MK in those medium to long range fights. So tanking your ADS sense and turning it really low to make that viable doesn't really hurt you that much. And then also, I would say turn your dead zones down a little bit if you're playing on linear. Or turn it up a little bit. Sorry. You want to turn your dead zones up a little bit if you're playing on linear because of how reactionary it is. There's not a huge increase. If you're playing like 10-10 on exponential, maybe like 13-13 on linear. Like a little bit of increase in the dead zones can make it feel like way more controllable, and you'll still have like the benefit of playing linear. So that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I hope you found it helpful. Like I said, let me know if you play linear or exponential. I personally think linear is better, but it's not like you have to play linear to be good. It comes down to a lot of preference and playstyle. And just putting in the time to get better is going to be like the biggest thing, regardless of what setting you play on. You're going to need to put the time in to like build that muscle memory and improve. Thanks for watching. Give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more. My Twitch is linked down in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video.